So it has been another very hectic weekend in the Championship, and in today's video we'll be rounding up all of the weekend's action. As always, I'm interested to get your guys' views on what went on this weekend. I'll leave a few polls for you guys to vote on because we've got some interesting talking points to go over. Before we do get into anything though, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors over at OneFootball. As always, their link will be in the top line of the description down below. If you want to read into any of the games that did go on this weekend, look into them in a little bit more detail, you can go over to the OneFootball app and do that. We also continue to have a lot of Championship football going on, so that's the best place to keep up to date with all the latest ongoings. Obviously, we just had the transfer window shutting. Later on in the week, I'll have a video coming out where I rank each club and how I thought they did in the January transfer window. But over on the app, you can check out all the signs that each club has made, so really handy app to have on you. Link in the top line of the description. And before we do hop in to talk about any of the games, I will include your guys' score predictions on screen now. So if any of you did successfully manage to get any of your score predictions correct, then fair play. I had a fairly decent week. I got 2 of mine correct, both the Preston and Middlesbrough games, both correctly predicted. So not too bad going for me, but without any further ado, let's hop in to talk about these games. So the first game we had going on Friday saw Cardiff drawing 1-1 with Reading. These two met in the FA Cup a week ago, and coincidentally it was the same scoreline. It finished 1-1, and it was exactly the same goal scorers as well. Yaku Mate giving Reading the lead. Really nicely worked goal this one. John Swift with his 8th assist of the season puts the ball across the box, and Yaku Mate is just about to get his header under Alex Smithies. After that and going into the second half, Cardiff looked to improve. They definitely had the better of that half and created quite a lot of decent opportunities, and when they did get the equaliser, this one coming from a Will Vokes long throw in, those can cause absolute chaos. There seemed to be a bit of a goal mouth scramble, and then eventually Callum Patterson slotted in to score his 3rd goal in as many matches. But after that equaliser, it was the home side who were really pushing for that winner. Raphael, the Reading goalkeeper, made a couple of top saves for them to keep them in it, and like I say, it was the home side who were really going for it, and quite unfortunate not to pick up all 3 points. The ball just wasn't quite falling for them, but a decent point for Reading on the road there. Both sides are currently sat in mid-table, and they'll be hoping for a consistent run between now and the end of the season, which could put them in the playoff picture. And then we saw Derby beating Stoke by 4-0. What a performance from Derby, and what a way from them to react to last time's result against Luton. But each of the goals being fantastically taken. The first from Waghorn, brilliant ball out wide to Forsyth, and then he whips the ball in, and Waghorn's the man on the spot to slot it in. Waghorn, I thought, being really influential for this game. Has been a little bit hit and miss for Derby so far this season, but a lot of their attacking options for this one really coming into form. The second goal brilliantly taken as well. Nice turn from Holmes in midfield, slots the ball into Chris Martin, and then with a rasping finish into the roof of the net, makes it 2-0. In the second half, that same attacking intensity was continuing from Derby, and we have seen glimpses of what Derby have been capable of moving the ball forward so far this season. You know, when Preston went to Pride Park earlier on this season, Derby were capable of playing some really good football, and that was on full show for this one. The third goal, brilliantly taken free kick by Wayne Rooney, just places it in and bends it around the wall to make it 3. But for me personally, the pick of the goals being Jayden Bogle's. Wayne Rooney this time with the assist, and I think Wayne Rooney's put to bed any doubters that he had of his capabilities of still being able to do it at this level, because he's been absolutely brilliant playing for Derby so far. Dictating the play from midfield, he set Bogle on his way, and then with an absolutely ferocious strike into the far post, he made it 4-0 to Derby and made amends for that own goal last time. And overall, just a fantastic performance from Derby, and the mood definitely has been lifted around there lately. In terms of Stoke, it was a bit of an off day from what we've come to expect from them lately, and with Wigan winning as well, keeps it very interesting and tight down to the bottom. Moving into Saturday, we then saw Brentford beating Hull by 5-1. We thought that Hull may be at a bit of a disadvantage after how deadline day had gone for them, losing Bowen and Grosicki, but I didn't think they'd be quite this bad. Defensively, they were absolutely shocking. It doesn't help that they're coming up against probably the best forward 3 in the league, but even so, they really didn't help themselves for this one. Brentford took the lead after 12 minutes. Ben Rama with a nice goal, corner taken shortly. He bent that one into the far post from outside the box and obviously dedicated that one to his dad, which was a nice touch. Brentford then made it 2-0. Once again, poor defending from Hull, this one being an own goal. Burke tried to get under it and clear it, but ended up flicking in, going over his head. Hull did get away back into the game though with David Raya. It was a clearance from Tafazoli, and the most bizarre goal we've seen all season probably. It was just sort of a chipped clearance into him, no real pressure on him, and the ball just bobbled under him and ending up going into the back of the net. But going into half-time at 2-1 wasn't really a fair reflection of the game. Like, Brentford should have been way out of sight by that point. But in the second half, they made sure that that would be the case. A couple more goals from Ben Rama, and Ollie Watkins also getting on the score sheet for his 19th goal of the season. But it was sort of a mix of both worlds really. Hull being awful at the back and Brentford being ruthless going going forward. The second Ben Rama goal I thought was really well taken. Nice link up between Mbemo and Ben Rama, and for him to get the hat-trick after everything that has happened lately, with the passing of his father, I'm sure that that meant a lot to him. But Brentford in a really strong position in the Championship at the moment. In terms of Hull, you do fear for them, and they could have a really downward form of momentum towards the tail end of the season with the quality players that they've lost. So unless they sort out that defence, it's a worry for them. And then we have Birmingham beating Forest by 2-1. This one also being a bit of a bonkers match. Forest, the away side, started out the game really brightly, creating chances. Thiago Silva took the lead for them after Joe Lolly had headed him to their own goal. He had the ball out wide, took it down on his left foot, swerved inside and then fired into the roof of the net with his right. Really well taken goal for his first goal for Forest this season. They then had the perfect opportunity to make it 2-0. They were rewarded the penalty. Lewis Grubben stepped up to take it, but fair play to Lee Camp. He was absolutely brilliant for this one. Saved the penalty, and then Birmingham go up the other end of the pitch. The ball's hooked towards the far post. Djukovic heads it down to Scott Hogan, who's able to get his first goal for Birmingham. And you know, we've spoken a bit about Scott Hogan and what he can do for Birmingham, trying to replicate that Chelms-Djukovic partnership, and they linked up well for that goal, so maybe there's more to come in the future for that one. Into the second half, Forest were continuing to create chances, but this one just wasn't to be Lewis Grubben's day. He had one chance where he swiveled away from two defenders which came off the crossbar, another one which was cleared off the line. It just wasn't going to be his day, and then ultimately it was Birmingham went on to win the match. This goal coming from a corner, bit of a goalmouth scramble, and eventually Pedersen gets the final touch on it to make it 2-1 to the home side. And fair play to Birmingham. In the past, I think we've seen them buckle on a few occasions after going a goal down, but they handled themselves well. That penalty miss for Forest seemed to be the game-changing moment, and obviously it wasn't to be Lewis Grubben's day, but Grubben overall, I think that he's earned Forest 17 points so far this season with the goals that he scored them, so you can't be too harsh on him for this one. It was just a bad day at the office. Next up for Forest, though, is a game against Leeds, and that is going to be a real crunch match. Then we saw Charlton picking up a massive 3 points at the Valley as they beat Barnsley by 2-1. You felt like this was Barnsley's opportunity to really claw back some ground on the sides above them, but Charlton with a massive statement in this one. It was Lyle Taylor who took the lead for the home side after 9 minutes, the free kick being swung in, Pierce heading the ball on, and then Taylor got the faintness of touches to just get it past the goalkeeper, making it 1-0. Barnsley had a brilliant chance to get back into it in the first half though, but Dylan Phillips with quite possibly the save of the season. It was absolutely unbelievable reflex save, diving back on himself to tip the ball around the post. Really has been quite an underrated goalkeeper so far this season in the Championship. But Charlton then made it 2-0 going into half-time. Andre Green with his second goal in the Charlton shirt, really well taken goal, fired that one into the bottom corner. For the second half, Barnsley did create a fair few chances, to be fair. Luke Thomas looked more of a threat for them in the second half, and they were looking decent on the counter-attack. The goal they got back into it with Woodrow was a really well taken goal on the counter-attack. They had an onslaught of chances later on. Brown hit the crossbar, but it just wasn't falling for them. But a massive 3 points for Charlton in that one. And then we saw Fulham beating Huddersfield by 3-2. Another really dramatic game. All the goals of this one coming in the first half. Fulham were absolutely running away with it early on. Bobby Reid took the lead after 10 minutes. Absolutely brilliant solo goal from Bobby Reid. It was a brilliant ball switched out wide from Michael Hector into Reid. He chests the ball down, flicks the ball past Bakuna, does a little bit of a dummy to send Stim in the wrong way, and then finishes it excellently. Absolute class from Bobby Reid, and that's the player that, you know, we've become accustomed to in the Championship. You know, we'd lost him a little bit from his time at Cardiff, but really is now putting on a show. Tom Kenny then made it 2 5 minutes later, and then Mitrovic made it 3 in the 31st minute, him being teed up by Joe Bryan, and being 3-0 up after 31 minutes, it probably looks like that's going to be the game, but Huddersfield had some up their sleeve. Smith Rowe, after a bit of a scrambled attempt around the goal line, managed to make it 3-1, and then suddenly Huddersfield were back in the game. Smith Rowe then turned provider for the next one, putting the ball across the box, and Steve Mounier just about bundled it over to make it 3-2, and then going into the second half, there was a real game on their hands. The second half wasn't quite as eventful as the first, which saw 5 goals going in, but Huddersfield had a terrific chance to make it 3-3. The ball fell to Colin Grant in a brilliant position. He hit it well, but Rodak with an absolutely fantastic save. We spoke about that save that Dylan Phillips made in the Charlton game, but this one with Fulham being just as important. Tipping it over the bar with how well Colin Grant hit it. He had no right to save that, but in the end has earned Fulham all 3 points in this one, and it's been a really weird season for Fulham so far, because I feel like on the channel quite a bit we've spoken, you know, in a negative fashion about Fulham. You know, they could have been doing better and things like that, but at the end of the day, they're sat third in the Championship, and they're only a few points away from the top 2 now. So if they continue going like this from now until the end of the season with how the top 2 are doing at the moment, they've got a fighting chance of the top 2. And then we have Wigan Athletic beating Leeds by 1-0. Lightning has struck twice. We saw the same thing happening last season, and I didn't see this one coming. After how the Leeds last game went against Millwall, you know, they were 2-0 down in that game, but they came back in the second half fantastically. I thought that, alright, Leeds may now have shifted back into gear. You know, Bamford was on form for that one, and there was no stopping them. But Wigan managed to stop them in this one, and to be honest, it was a typical Leeds performance where they created a lot of chances. They put an abundance of crosses into the box. You know, a lot of chances fell the way of Bamford. Costa and Harrison were always causing problems from wide areas, looking to cut inside, but it just wasn't falling for them. I think that no one in the Championship creates as many chances as Leeds do, but their conversion rates are just so inconsistent week to week. You never know what you're going to get from them. I was surprised that Augustin wasn't anywhere to be seen for this one. Maybe it would have been too soon to throw him straight into the starting 11, especially with Bamford getting 2 goals against Millwall, but I thought that he'd at least have made it onto the bench and then maybe on for the last 20 or so minutes. That would have really helped them in this game. But Bielsa obviously made the decision and thought that he wasn't ready for it. But the goal for Wigan came in the second half. Joe Williams' corner kick deflected off Pablo Hernandez, and balls being swung into the box and defending set pieces has been a real weakness for Leeds lately. And I mean, Kiko Casillas should be doing much better with that. He was weak on his goal line. I think that ultimately the match stats paint the picture for this game. You know, Leeds having 18 shots with 76% possession, but with nothing to show from it. And the next 3 fixtures really are quite decisive for Leeds. They've got games against Nottingham Forest, Brentford, and Bristol City as their next 3 in the Championship. All going to be season defining. In terms of Wigan, at one point I thought they were looking dead and buried for the bottom 3 this season, but after winning 3 of their last 5 matches, they've given themselves a fighting chance. It looks at the moment like Barnsley and Luton are starting to get cut adrift, but Wigan are only 2 points away from safety now. Big 3 points for them. Middlesbrough against Blackburn ended even. I thought it was Borough who probably had the better of this one. They started out definitely as the better of the 2 sides. Created quite a few chances in the first half. Walton had to be kept on his toes, but couldn't quite break the deadlock. They carried that into the second half as well and had a couple of efforts which just flashed wide, but it was Blackburn who took the lead really against to run the play, but it was really well taken goals. Travis and Armstrong with a brilliant link up. A give and go between them two, and then Travis slotting it in to make it 1-0 to Blackburn, and in many ways it was the perfect sort of away Championship performance from Blackburn where they soaked up pressure for a lot of the game and then hit them well going forward on the counter-attack. Borough did eventually get back into it though. Coulson with the goal after Lewis Wing's initial effort was saved and pushed into his way from Christian Walton, and then from and on Borough were looking the more likely side to go on and get that winner. A couple of really decent chances fell in the way of British Sombolonga. He just couldn't quite get them on target, but Rudiger Stead really had the game changing moment fall to him. The ball fell to him in the box, but Walter made an absolutely fantastic save to keep the score on at 1-1. We've seen some big goalkeeper saves this weekend, but Walter made the save and ultimately finished 1-1. Good point for Blackburn on the road. Feel as if Borough will be a little bit more frustrated. Then we had North End going up against Swansea, this one finishing as a 1-1 draw. Not really much in it between the two sides. You could tell it was 2 similarly matched teams, both going for the top 6. The first real moment of quality came when North End took the lead. Scott Sinclair driving at the Swansea defence. That's something that we had been lacking without Sinclair, but his first goal for North End brilliantly taking, drives into the box and then with his left foot bends it past Freddie Woodman. He stood no chance with that, and definitely a good moment for him. Swansea then lulled just a few minutes after though. Preston sloppily giving the ball away. I think it was Josh Harris, but fair play to Swansea. This one was quite a nicely worked goal actually. Some nice work from Conor Gallagher, slipped the ball into Ayew. At the time and from where I was sat in the stadium, looked like he was just offside, but after watching the replay, Ayew had just timed his run well and was kept onside by Patrick Bauer. He then squared the ball for Brewster and he made it 1-1. After that and going into the second half, there weren't really that many clear-cut chances. I didn't think the referee was great for this one. I thought that he lost control of it fairly early on. Brewster, I did get a bit lucky for me not to be sent off for that tackle on Pero. Talking about Ben Pearson though, what an unbelievable second half from him. He was absolutely running the show in terms of winning the ball back, but one of the best performances I've seen from Pero for quite a while actually, and he normally puts in a really solid shift for us, but this game especially I thought he was brilliant. The second half really lacked any sort of clear goal scoring opportunities. You know, Bauer had one that was saved by Woodman and Brown had a chance in stoppage time, but apart from that there wasn't really much in it. Swansea defended well. I thought that Joe Roden, considering how long that he's been out of the side for, did really well for them, won everything in the air, organised them really well as well, but in the end finishing as a 1-1 draw, it was probably the fair result. Bristol City made it 4 wins on the bounce as they saw off QPR by 1-0. Jeju's first half goal being enough to seal this one, and one of the most satisfying goals that you're going to see this weekend. Brilliant ball in from Jack Hunt from the right hand side from quite a deep position, inch perfect into Jeju, and then him with the diving header made it 1-0. QPR a little bit sloppy for that first half. Bristol City definitely had the better of it, but the second half the roles were flipped for that. A lot of the play was around the Bristol City box. QPR, it just wasn't quite falling from them. 18 shots in this game, but just one of them being on target. They were opening up areas and getting in some decent spaces, but like I say, it just wasn't falling for them. In the second half, Naki Wells did get on for his Bristol City debut against his former side, but there was no opener debut goal for him. I thought that would have been written in the stars, but not to be this time. But Bristol City on a fantastic run at the moment, find themselves 6th in the Championship. They got a decent couple of games coming up as well, but after that have games against Leeds United and West Brom back to back, and we'll really see the level of Bristol City in those two games. I'm interested to see how they get on. Two other playoff hopefuls face off against each other. Sheff Wednesday against Millwall, this one ending as a goalless draw. Not the best game going on this weekend, they sort of both cancelled each other out. Dominic Iorfa for Sheff Wednesday though did catch my eye for this one. Absolutely colossal in defence for them. There was one chance that Millwall had in the second half when Bod Vartan was racing through on goal. Iorfa with the recovery tackle, absolutely unbelievable. If he mistimed that at all, it would have been a straight red card, and you know, Millwall would have been in on goal. But he brilliantly raced back, got his foot in there, and Iorfa, one of Wednesday's best players so far this season. But apart from that, there weren't really all too many other standout players for Wednesday. It was a bit of a bland performance. Both sides had a couple of chances here and there, but neither goalkeeper was really forced into much action throughout this one, and ending as a 0-0. It's not the worst point in the world for either side, but they could have each gone for it a little bit more. And then we saw West Brom going back to the top of the Championship and getting back to winning ways with a 2-0 home victory over Luton. It was Callum Robinson's debut and a really influential performance from him. His cross led to the opening goal out on that left-hand side where he is most effective for me. Pulled the ball across, and then Daniels hit the ball into the back of his own net, and Luton got off to the worst possible start, really. Luton's best chance probably fell to Mpanzu in a really decent position around about the centre circle, but he just hooked that one over the crossbar. But West Brom continued to create chances as the afternoon went on. Callum Robinson had a couple of them, one from the left-hand side which Sluga saved well. Phillips also had a decent chance, but he then turned provider for the second goal. A ball in after some nice skills down that right-hand side into Semi Ajayi. He made it 2-0, and West Brom were able to get back to winning ways, and really do, after that transfer window, have some decent options in quite a few areas now. I think that when everyone is fully fit, they'll struggle to get everyone in the side. Krovinovic, once again, very influential from him. I think we're only seeing him get better as the season is going on. But a big 3 points that relieves the pressure on West Brom, especially with Leeds losing this weekend and the recent run that they've gone. They'll be hoping to continue that momentum for the rest of the season. Now, in terms of Luton, a bit of a disappointing one. Obviously, they currently find themselves 7 points adrift of safety. I do think they have some winnable games coming up. The next 2 matches are both at home. They need to take full advantage of them now. Well, guys, there you have it. There were all the matches that did go on this weekend. So do you get your thoughts in the comments down below as to what you made of your team's performance? We had some fantastic results going on this weekend, so I'm interested to see what one you guys vote for the result of the weekend. Obviously, Wigan beating Leeds was fantastic. Derby putting 4 past Stoke, but I felt like Brentford's 5-1 win over Hull really put out a statement. And for the goal of the weekend, there were also some cracking goals scored. I'd love to give it to Scott Sinclair. I thought his effort was fantastic, but Bobby Reed's for Fulham, just a wonderfully worked solo goal, I have to say. But guys, there you have it. That will now wrap it up for this episode of the Championship Roundup. So if you're going to enjoy, make sure you leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. Make sure you do subscribe for a regular bit of Championship content. But apart from that, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.